come on. It is Friday again. You know what I love about Fridays? Well, it's right nestled nicely between Thursdays and Saturdays. And if you know me, you know one thing. I love what I do and do what I love. And I love every day of the week because it's another day to be awesome. And just before we even get started, I've got to give a shout out because Kirsten's back. Kirsten missed last week, I think, and I chastised her quite severely. I sent her, don't ever do that again. You'll never be my favorite fan. She's back on the drive home. Friends of James, too, which is a good segue into, I've been waiting for this for a long time since I was on James' show a couple weeks ago. This guy is absolute nuclear fire, and you are going to love this conversation. I think the only question is we may talk over each other the whole day. So I got to be really careful and practice host mode and forget that I'm not in guest mode. But you're going to love my man, James. He is on fire. Sell Better by JB Sales, and a new website he's just launched. He just told us about a couple minutes ago, and we're going to talk about selling with enthusiasm, which I don't have a lot of, right? First lie of the day, and trust and relationships and anything else James wants to talk. So I'm going to shut up. We'll be right back. Boom! There we are.
Yes.
I mean, let me think about it. Nah, I can't get better than this. It really can't.
Hey, shout out to Kirsten. I love you, man. You come to all our stuff.
Yeah, is she the best or what? Is she the best? She introduced you and I, which is really cool.
I know it. Thanks. And you were a great guest on Surviving Sales, which was awesome. Unlike anything, I think our energies match. That's why we vibe so well.
It does. It's great stuff, man. It's great stuff. Well, welcome on a Friday, Labor Day weekend and everything.
I know it. I'm excited too because we got Boston next week and Chicago the following week. More Social Than Sass is popping off. If you want the deets, hit me up. I'm happy to provide you. If you're in Chicago, in Boston, I will be there next week in Boston and the week after in Chicago. Hit me.
Good stuff, man. You're just flying, aren't you, buddy?
I used to say that I want a job where I get to talk to people.
Mm-hmm. That's
what sales is,
right?
Talk to people, build relationships, earn their trust. You were going to talk about it later. We'll talk about it now.
Let's do it now.
You asked me, but when we were getting ready for this, you had asked me, what my position was: trust, relationship, which one comes first? I think that's a lot like a chicken and egg. Mm-hmm. Because every situation is a little different and we have these different contextual things for how we meet people. Sometimes we meet people in person. Well, that doesn't fall into either one of those categories, right? You got to meet them in person and really make an impression before you can worry about trust or a relationship. They have to want to talk to you.
Right.
I think sometimes we naturally build relationships with people, especially in the modern world, because in the modern world, we're connected everywhere. Right. And because of this, relationships can come from anywhere, but some of them are superfluous and some of them are quite meaningful. And we base that decision on our interactions with people, and it gives way to the trust being built. And other times, we don't know if we want the relationship until we trust somebody. Right. We always hear the phrase, everybody has family that ain't blood and blood that ain't family.
Right. Exactly.
Right. This is a common phrase. Well, the same is true in sales. I got family that ain't blood and I got blood that ain't fam.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. And so, and some of the best family members you have are not blood, right? It's right. Family has nothing to do with biology, right? It really doesn't.
It's true. And like I said, everything in our lives, especially right now when we're like hypersensitive to things, after the last 2 years, everybody has their guard up, right? So we feel vibes more than we ever have before. Nowhere is this more obvious than if you go to an event and you see things like coded lanyards where like I have a green lanyard, so I'm a hugger, right? Yeah. I have a blue lanyard, so shake my hand. Right. I have a yellow lanyard, so I'm elbows,
Right.
You see this kind of stuff everywhere right now. This is unheard of 3 years ago.
So you have a red one. It means don't get within 27 feet of me.
Yo, I've heard stories about offices that now have blocks that have different color sides that show, and people will put that color up on this block, and people will know, Jim is in a bad mood today.
Wow.
Right. And that's like a good prep for external things that come at you all day. Because if I'm Sarah and I'm about to approach Jim and I see that red block, I'm like, hey, Jim, do you have a minute? Do you have a second? If you don't, it's cool. I can come back,
Yeah.
Like, don't attack me, dude.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh my, I'm glad that I'm out doing what I do and don't work in an office anymore. I don't know if I'd be spending a lot of time in HR, I feel.
You know what though? I bet you're like me in the fact that I don't miss walking around in the heat knocking on doors, pal.
Oh, love it.
I,
Nothing like
I don't
being
miss
out
it at
talking.
all.
Yeah, it's it's what I do now. And that's an interesting concept because and I've got a good friend of mine that's really great and I mean incredible cold caller. Cold calling is one of those things that I always hated
Mm.
my whole life. I've never been a big fan. I think you and I talked about cold calling some.
I'm
I'm
a
a
cold call
You're a
fanatic.
machine. You're a
I
machine.
default there.
Yep. See, I like I liked a little bit more of the I like a slight warm up, like a little, and that's what I love about what we're doing today with all the virtual and everything is I can warm you up just I mean maybe a like a light mat strike before we actually go into the cold call thing, and
I
that
think
fits
it
my.
helps. I think it helps grease the wheels to have a few touch points before a call, depending on the level of where that prospect might fit.
Mm-hmm.
Some prospects, man, it's a mid-market. It's a small, medium business. You can like pick up the phone, dial them. Maybe you have their cell phone. Like that's not a fearful call,
No,
you know, for an experienced seller, that is.
exactly.
But when you're calling an enterprise, well, that feels a little different. There's,
Right.
6+ figures sometimes 7-figure deals at that level. And that's a little daunting, especially when you're
Mm-hmm.
calling multiple decision makers at that level, because everyone's got to be on the same page and there's huge agendas that come into play. This can get really hairy really fast because you need group calls, but then you have to speak to the individuals. And that's
Right.
what's motivating them is what you have to sell to.
Right.
The one thing that I do miss about the door-to-door days, and I did it for both business to business and residential, was the ability to build rapport quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Has become something that I think is a cornerstone skill for sellers around the world. Our
Agreed.
ability so I use two jobs that really do a great job prepping sellers. And I don't even think young people realize that they're being prepped for sales when they do these two jobs. The first job is a bagger at a grocery store.
Okay. Yep.
The bagger at the grocery store has a very small window of time to bag groceries with this person and then take them to their car, and maybe they get a tip.
Right.
I cut my teeth as a bagger when I was 15.
Did you
And man,
really?
I was getting them laughing. My tips were always the best because I built rapport really fast. When they
Right.
saw me coming, they'd be like, "You bag my groceries. You bag my groceries." Because they knew that I was funny and I was going to make them laugh on the way out to the car, tell them a recent joke, something like that. At the other level, there's another job people should do: serve tables.
Hmm.
The ability to approach a strange group of people that you don't know and flawlessly rattle off an intro is a cornerstone skill in sales. We're about to
Exactly.
talk about the first 12 seconds of cold calls in this upcoming webinar. Again, hit me up. Happy to give you the invite. It's a free event. This is live from John Barrow's house in Boston. And when we do this, everybody struggles with that first 12 seconds. The reason they struggle, I think, and you can back me up on this, is because they immediately go into sales mode.
Right.
They think that that's where it's time to sell.
Right.
No.
No, not at all. I
No.
agree.
Slow down, and instead of selling, say something that's relevant to them. And it can't be, "My name is, and I'm with, and we do." That's the one thing that it can't be. And that's a really hard thing for salespeople to break that habit.
Yes, exactly. I had to shut my phone off. It was vibrating at me and making me nervous. It is because I think a lot of people that get into sales, James, don't they? They they probably didn't go to high school or college and go, I think I want to be a metal roofing sales guy. That's what I want to be when I grew up. Most of us ended up in sales somehow because we just did, right? And all of a sudden we find out we're pretty good at it. And then all of a sudden we find out we're really good at it. And I think this is kind of cool, right? But the point is, I think people are always, not everybody, but you and I aren't, but afraid to make that first 12 seconds because they're afraid. They're afraid they're going to get pushed off. They're afraid they're going to say something wrong. And see, I approach those things, and I can tell you, I know you do a little bit. We've got to know each other over the last few weeks. I have pretty little fear with that. I'll just come and say whatever pops out of my head, and we're just going to start a conversation, and we're going to be pals right out of the gates, typically.
Yeah. Part of that is a level of confidence that you've developed over your many years of experience. But there's a few factors here. First of all, I want to talk to your initial point about people falling backwards into sales jobs. This is one of the most common things that happen all over the world. And I don't think we talk about it enough at the educational level. I don't think our education system does a great job preparing our students for a sales role. It is both
Right.
the highest and the lowest paid profession in the world, and it is also the most common profession. More people are in sales than any other profession out there, period, the end. They sell some level of something, a service, a product themselves, positions, they sell something. Food,
Right.
even in other countries, there are still people that are in sales and they run food carts on the side of main highways, right?
Sure.
I spend a lot of time in Africa. This is common, but they will tell you they're not in food. They will tell you that they're in sales.
Right.
that's
Right.
that's what they'll
Exactly.
do, right? But we don't prep our young people for this. And that's why they fall backwards into sales positions with degrees. They have degrees
Right.
in history, degrees in kinesiology, sports medicine, degrees in law, degrees in criminology, but they don't land in those industries. These people end up selling insurance. They end up selling mattresses. They end up selling retail. They end up selling software and technology. A lot of them come in with no formal training whatsoever, and they learn one specific industry and they limit their education to just what's provided in
Mm-hmm.
that industry. This is folly. We live in a so well-connected world that we should be out there just consuming. I think salespeople should be able to consume from any direction and then take every technique, every tactic, every best practice that they can get from anybody that's out there putting content out that they've never heard and try everything, because the
Yes.
things that work for you aren't going to work for the next person.
Right.
The things that work for that person that you see them winning all day and it makes you upset, they might not work for you because you're not them.
Right.
Right? We have to find the things that work for us and the things that work for our prospects, the things that matter most to them. If we're focused there, I think it's very difficult for us not to be successful in sales.
Oh, I agree. And you just hit at a point that I think is really key is if you when you develop that relationship early and you ask the questions and in the old theory of listen more and talk less, right? And if you ask the open-end questions that gets that customer to talking to you and to trust you, he he will tell you, he will tell you how to sell them, right? They will tell you what their issues are, what their problems are, what their pain points are, and and by listening to them, it doesn't have to become this hard sale. It doesn't have to become
Mm,
this pounding and beating, right? Because you just basically told me in the last 15, 20 minutes as we talk, right? What it is I need to try to help you with. And so it takes away all of that, not all, but it takes away a lot of that
mystery.
mystery and that
Yeah.
that knocking ahead that a lot of people throw up
The
with a
friction in
sales guy,
general. Yeah,
right?
the
Because nobody
friction
wants to
in
be sold.
general tends to
What do you think
dissipate.
about that?
Yeah, well, so discovery and qualification are always a talking point in the trainings and the coaching that we deliver. So I work with several trainers, Meg Holsinger, Shelly Gupta Correa, and Leslie Douglas, and we all kind of trickle under the John Barrows method. And one of the things that John has said to me, I think probably in like 2017, we've been friends a long time. And one of the things that he said was, it's not our job to convince or persuade you to buy what we have. It's our job to sell what we have to people that need it.
Yeah.
And the only way to know if somebody needs it is to actually ask questions about what you're selling and about what their needs are and match the two up. Well, this requires that we actually know the difference between qualification and discovery and which one to do when. Sometimes you're cold calling people,
Mm-hmm.
right? So here we are, we're cold calling you. Well, if I'm cold calling you, there's a good chance that you're going to be a little defensive at first. So I
Right.
need to approach knowing that that's the case. And I have to start saying things that are relevant to you right away
Right.
so that you'll want to keep talking. And you use that to buy yourself just a little bit more time, maybe 30 seconds. John will often say, so listen, I'd like to tell you the reason I'm calling. Can you give me about 30 seconds? And if it's not interesting to you, you can tell me to screw off. Totally fine.
Yep.
Right. And it's very casual. It's very calm. It's very confident. And because it is those 3 C's, people tend to go, what do you got, John? Right?
Yeah. Right.
Or they go, I don't really have time for this. And he's like, hey, no problem. Thanks for your time. I appreciate it. And he's off the phone and on to the next one.
Right.
Right. I do something very similar. My intro is very similar. I say with a downward inflection. I don't know if you might be actually familiar with Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine. Do you remember Chet
Mm-hmm.
Holmes?
I know who that is. Yes.
Huge fan of Chet Holmes, late 90s, early 2000s.
Yep.
Or dating myself, I'm aware. But Chet Holmes, the ultimate sales machine, he used that downward inflection. So when I say, I'd like to speak with Sarah, please, I'm not saying I'd like to speak with Sarah, please, with this like non-confident tone, right? These are small, subtle things you pick up over time. and they work for you sometimes and sometimes they don't, because buyers are different too, just like sellers are different.
Right.
This is a people to people business. If you're in sales and you think you're going to come in and push buttons and work the volume game in the modern economy, you will struggle.
Right. Right. Yep. So it is, and you just hit a good point there. A lot of guys like to. I mean, my genre, if you will, if that's the right word I want to use, is B2B. I'm a B2B guy, but that's just the nature of what I do. It's still P2P, right, or H to H, whatever you want to call it. People, human to human. I mean, it's all. Even if it's a large account that I'm calling on, it's still a buyer or two, and we're all
Sure.
people, right? And we all got.
They still put their
going
pants on the same way that you do.
Exactly.
Is what you mean. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But that level of intimidation happens at an early age. And I think it happens for a couple of reasons. The first one is imposter syndrome. You've probably heard of this before.
Mm-hmm.
This is a big talking point in the space right now, especially for people that have been seasoned sales veterans, right? And I think, so I give a resource out all the time. This lady's name is Amber Dybert. We met her through one of our webinar attendees, Brandon Fluharty, who used her to get over his own instance of imposter syndrome, because we all go through it. And my belief, Amber has different opinions, and you should go check them out. She's an expert on imposter syndrome, especially for salespeople. Building better business, right? That's what we're talking about here today. Right. Building wins, like go get over imposter syndrome, big win.
Right, exactly.
So imposter syndrome works, I think, in two ways. Early on in our career, we are supposed to be sellers, and therefore in our brain, we're supposed to be the subject matter expert, but I've only been here for 3 months. So I feel like I'm a fraud. I'm a fake. I don't really know enough about this, but here I am pushing it on people. I feel like an imposter, right? Like,
right.
It's a very common feeling.
Right.
As we move forward in our careers, I believe that we achieve certain levels of success. When we start as an SDR or a sales development rep, for those of you that aren't familiar with that acronym, when we start as an SDR, we are $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a year, depending on what you're selling and your ACV and your company and their salary requirements. And you're like amped because it's your first sales job and you can't believe you're making this much money. Right? You hit a mark. That's what we do. We hit that mark. But then something happens. It stops becoming about money. Now we're making enough money. Like, we feel happy. We're content with the amount of money that we make. And it becomes about lifestyle. It becomes about being able to travel. It becomes about basically more money, because we want all these things for our lives. And you have to be able to make enough money to afford all those things for your life. This is the big picture that every seller has to see. You can't start from the SDR role and immediately become a subject matter expert. It takes time. Later, you become an imposter syndrome all over again because you feel unworthy suddenly of this life that you've created for yourself, this position that you have. And it's grown from sales to something else by then. You're sales, but you're also marketing, but you're also content creator, but you're also hosting webinars and shows. This is what happened to me. Just because somebody gets into sales doesn't mean that's their destination.
Right.
It could grow and blossom into so many different things, and you can still do sales.
Right. Exactly. Because at the end of the day, as you said earlier, and I love that statement, the food carts in Africa, everybody at some point or another in your life, even if you don't have a title of sales in your the name sales, the word sales, everybody in sales. I saw somebody once, he said, "No, I don't sell. I drive fork truck." Well, yeah, but you represent your company. When customers come out back to get loaded, you're representing your company. And I said, "But you are in sales because," I said, "Do you have a girlfriend?" He goes, "Yeah." "How long?" "Oh, 3-4 years." I said, "Dude, you did some sales job stuff, right? Because she didn't just become your sales good. She didn't become your girlfriend because of your incredibly great looks. Okay, let's face it, right? You did a sales job on it, right? And so we're all in sales every day, all day long. I don't care if you're a pastor of a church, if you're it doesn't matter. You're selling a theory, you're selling donations, you're selling, right?
I want to address the elephant in the room and say that there are lots of attractive forklift drivers out there. I just want to throw it out there and let you know we're not discriminating against the forklift drivers of the world here.
That's true.
I've driven a forklift, actually. That's
okay. Well, you're probably one of the handsome ones.
I don't know about that. My big ugly mug on a forklift is not a fun sight.
I drove a forklift for all my life too, so it was.
I think there are certain jobs that just prepare us for something in sales. I remember my mother used to say to me when I was very young, "You'd be great in sales," and I had no idea what that meant. I think what she meant was people really like spending time with you.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what she meant, because it's like I don't know who said this. I always want to look up who said it, and I never do. It could have been Seth Godin. It could have been Gary Vee. It could have been any one of the talking heads that are out there that are super famous. It wasn't me.
If nobody claims it, we'll go with it.
Nobody claims it, right? But and I forgot where I was going with that. But it like hit me. I thought of Gary Vee, and then I forgot where I was going with it. But one of the things she used to say all the time was, "You'd be great at sales." I don't think that I thought that was valuable at the time. So what? People like to spend time with me. But the number one thing salespeople are good at is getting people to talk to them. And now I remember what that talking head said. Our presence, our brand, the way that we present ourselves digitally, professionally, in person, it's like a magnet. It has two poles. One of those poles pulls people towards us, and the other pushes people away. The people that are pushed away, they're not for you. You're going to have a tough time selling to those people. Sucks if that's your ICP, ideal customer profile.
Right.
But if you don't vibe with the set of people that are pushed away by your brand, don't try to sell to them. You're wasting your time. Right. They don't like you, and therefore they're going to avoid conversation with you.
Right.
Look for the people that are attracted to your brand, the people that actually gravitate towards you because they like what you're saying and the things you're doing. These people you can always earn your time with, and they tend to want to give it to you. And the first chasm we have to cross is, how do I get people to want to talk to me? Because you got to get there before anything can happen.
Right. Yep. That's a key. Now you just hit something, and it made me, I'm veering again here, but just hit the word brand. What do you think about, and that's a big talking point in today's world, right? Is personal branding.
Huge.
Let's talk about that. What's your take on that? I think I know what your take is, but let's talk about personal branding.
So I actually sit on both sides of the fence here for the very first time ever, and it's because I've been following two people that have, quote, brands that are close to me, people that I admire very much. The two people are Beck Holland and Keenan from A Sales Guy, or a sales growth company. I think he rebranded recently as well, a sales growth company. And they talk all the time about creating personal brands. My theory is that you have to have a purpose for that personal brand. What is the purpose of that personal brand? I wanted to go from selling software to training salespeople. Say What Sales, you can see it in my tag there, is my personal brand. That worked really well for me because my target audience, the people I was impacting the most, were always salespeople.
Right.
So Say What Sales seemed logical. Say What was really popular in the 80s. And one of the most common questions I was getting at the time when I was creating content early in my career was, what do I say when? What do I say? What do I say when they say this? What do I say when they say that? Say What Sales was what can I say? A lucky thought that came to me, and I stuck with it and I ran with it.
And I love it. It's awesome.
It's a great brand, right? I say what? I get it all the time. It's awesome. And then they say my mantra back to me. I say, if you're a salesperson, we're the same person. Right? Now, here's where Beck and Keenan differ a little bit, right?
Okay.
Beck is actually anti-brand. But oddly and ironically, her anti-brand is one of the most powerful and impactful brands out there right now. Sorry, Beck. That's the way it is. I love you. You're one of my dearest friends. Flip the Script is her company, her tour, her show, her road show that murders. I mean, it's such a great show. But that's her brand, right? And part of her brand is saying that she doesn't believe that sales reps should spend time building a personal brand. I'm actually supportive of that if you're a sales rep. But if your aim is to one day become more than just a sales rep, I think that brand is a doorway to that. Right. So that's my 10 cents. And I'm sure that we are going to eventually butt heads and have a conversation between Beck and Keenan and myself. I think Keenan has a great brand. I mean, bombastic. People are just drawn to this dude.
Right.
Right. And great book, great closing process. Gap selling is awesome. I love it. Very supportive. Right. But that's a brand.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, it is. Right. It might not be his, quote, personal brand, but it is a brand. So brand exists. And it's on us to figure out how to harness one of our own and use it to our advantage throughout the longevity of our careers as professionals. you can grab onto one and you can ride it for a long time, man. Brands can go really powerful. I look at Grant Cardone. I look at Gary Vee. I look at John Barrows. I look at Richard Harris. I look at Scott Leese and Amy Volas. All these people have amazing brands.
Right.
And that's the reason people respect what they say, look to them for advice, do business with them when they connect and need something from them. This is a doorway to business in most instances, if used correctly. That's my standpoint on brand.
I love it. That's a great point. It's I think that you have to the brand has to fit your what you're looking to do, and it has to fit your personality a little bit. You can't try to brand yourself into something you're not. It's got to be pretty, I think, genuine, right?
Both Keenan and Beck are authentic brands. They are themselves. No matter what you might think, I am me.
Yes.
Right. Those are the best brands. I could say the same thing about any other brand out there that is actually representing their true self online. I'll recommend a book. My friend Larry Levine, my good friend Larry Levine, wrote a book called Selling from the Heart. This whole book is about being your authentic self because it's your strongest weapon as a seller. Boom.
Yep, there it is.
That was fast.
Look at Wes go. Yeah, we've had three from his. We've had Larry on. We've had Bill McCormick on, and we've had Jackie Joy on. So amazing. Love what they do there.
Yeah, that book changed everything for me as a seller because I realized that I was just going through the motions and saying what I was taught to say. After I read the book, I was like, man, I don't even talk like this, but here I am saying these things. And it really got me to like come out of my shell and be myself a little more. I had a good thing going with Say What Sales, but I didn't really know what to do with it. I didn't know if who I was going to play well in this professional space. And when I read the book, it was like, I can't worry about that. I just have to be authentic and be the magnet, draw people in that are for me. And it turned out to be what it is. And Say What Sales is relatively popular in the space of sales. And that's what I'm after. That's what I want. When people think of sales, I want to be one of the people that they go, oh yeah, I know that guy. I follow that guy. He's got great stuff. And I hear it all the time. And that's my why. That's why I get up in the morning.
Exactly. So, and that's an interesting concept, why you get up in the morning. So what about, as we kind of wind down, what about sales, personal life intertwined? Are they separate? Do we live it all in one big bundle of joy every day, or how's a good salesman gonna? Do you separate or don't you separate?
I'll tell you.
And I'm not saying don't take downtime. I'm just saying.
No, I know what you're saying. It's I think what you're referring to is this common myth that's out there of work-life balance. That's what people call it. That's the label.
Right. That's the label
that people give it. And I think that to a degree, I feel my inner John Barrows like channeling for some reason. When we think about balance, we think about somebody on like a tightrope and there's like this stick and they're back and forth with it, trying to remain moving forward. And it's difficult for them because they have to remain upright and keep their balance as they press forward on this little tiny tightrope. I think that our lives, we should strive for an integration between our professional and personal lives. One of the things that my CRO, Christopher Merrill, will say is we don't work 9 to 5 here. That's true, but it works both ways at our culture. We don't work 9 to 5, so I can go to lunch at 2:00 with my wife if she's home. Solid.
Yep.
Right. And we don't have a webinar going on and I'm not, on a call that's scheduled. Like we can do that kind of stuff. But also sometimes I got to be live from 9 to 10 at night because we're doing this thing on the West Coast.
Right.
And you got to take that bad with that good. And that's the culture that you build. Right. But there's a lurking culture that dates way back to, I'd say the 50s, the 60s, the Mad Men days, where it's a hustle, it's a grind. You got to get up at 5. You better be in the office till 7. If you're not crushing it, you are failing.
Right.
Dude, you're going to have an aneurysm. Chill.
Exactly.
Right? Like there's process, there's structures, there's technologies that exist today that allow us to take this a little slower and really be tactical with what we're doing. Right? But those mentalities of old still come into play. And I view this as a generational gap. Leaders, when they were selling, numbers were the game. The more doors I knock, the more conversations I have, the more numbers I dial, the more emails I send, more. That was the answer. Today's top reps will tell you they do less better than everybody else. And that's how they stay on top of the leaderboard. And it's because they know how to use their tech stack, and they know how to target, manage an ICP, manage a list, and be able to break down the messaging so that it makes sense for their prospects.
Yes. Beautiful, beautiful. And you know, a slogan that I didn't make up, somebody did, because I was looking to see, because I was going to claim it because I liked it, but it was already out there. But I talk about all the time is love what I do and do what I love, right? And I think I'm blessed to be doing what I do because I literally do what you just talked about. That's my daily life is talking to customers, doing podcasts, doing Zoom calls with customers, taking customers pizza lunch and that kind of thing. And then boom, go have dinner with my wife at 3 p.m, right?
Yeah.
You know, and it's all intertwined that it doesn't, the beautiful thing is it doesn't feel like a job at all. And some days I work, I've been on a 2.5 week smoke fest, man. I've been just blasting, but it doesn't feel like I worked at all, right? Because I just
when you're doing something that you are, and this is where selling with enthusiasm comes into play here, right? And I think we've kind of been, giving people an experience in that on the show quite naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But when you are selling, I hope the people on the other side of the phone or the screen feel that enthusiasm and passion. It's often said that sales is the transfer of enthusiasm. I think that was Zig Ziglar, but it might have been someone else. I'm good for misquotes. Anyway, we say this because people buy with their emotions. Whether you're solving a problem or improving a situation, there's an emotional attachment to the outcome there. That's what they buy with. The problem is that almost every seller is trained to sell with facts, figures, and metrics. Those two things are not complementary unless those facts, figures, and metrics impact the emotional state. In that instance, you have an opportunity that's real. And I say this in my personal branding course. You can learn more about it. Right there it is, joinjbsales.com. That's where you can sign up to get access to that course and all of our other courses. So make sure you check that one out, joinjbsales.com. But in that course, I say that the myth and the legend, the thing that we've always said is that opportunities are created. This is a lie we tell ourselves. Every opportunity that we've ever got has been earned 100%. We didn't create it. It didn't mythically appear. We earned that opportunity when it came. And that's a truth that no one can hide from.
Boom. Love it. Fire right there, buddy. Hey, listen, Wes is going to pop up. He knows where I'm going next. Hashtag. Boom. There it is. Almost. That is. Should ask question. As we finish, we used to do this and then I forget, and Wes reminded me that I forget. So now he reminds me of that. But as we close out, my friend, what's the should ask question we didn't get to? What do you want to end with, my man?
The question that you should have asked me?
Yes.
So you definitely should have asked me about the YouTube channel that we just released into the wild.
There you go. There we go. Hey, James, what about the YouTube channel you just released?
Thank you for asking. You're
welcome.
Question.
It's my pleasure. Absolutely. That's beautiful.
I want to tell you that there's a free resource. It's in the banner below right here, and it's YouTube. And it's sellbetter.xyz on YouTube. This is where you're going to get the highlights from all our webinars, all of our training sessions, all the clips that we have, all the top takeaways, even some great tips that are being pushed out that are brand new in the modern selling environment. We're putting them out there on YouTube so that everybody can go learn from us and the other people that we are affiliated with. It's not just us, y'all. We are not the end all be all when it comes to the sales voices out there. There are many. Randy is only one of them too, right? We want to give access to all these voices and let people learn as much as they can because they deserve to be the highest paid seller in the room.
That's it right there. Love it. Love it.
There it is. This is our new website. We are so proud of this website right here. So go check it out, sellbetter.xyz.
That's it. I'm going to be on it all weekend.
Yeah, there we are right there. We do this event, man. More social than SaaS. You got to check that out.
Look
and
at
that's
that.
Leslie Douglas up there. She's one of the greatest trainers in the world. There's the man himself, John Barrows. If you've never been to a John Barrows training, you missed out. I'll tell you what, because he delivers, man. It changes everything about the way you feel about sales, about what you do every day.
Yep. Love it. Beautiful, my friend. As always, it's great to talk to you. And it was brilliant. I think brilliant. Brilliant's the word. I'm going to go with brilliantly brilliant. What do you think?
Well, hey, man, I love it. I want to thank you for having me on this show. This is the kind of stuff I want to do more of as I move forward with this. We're going to be hosting daily content soon. So reach out to me if you want to connect. I've never met a stranger in my life. And hashtag say what sales. If you're a salesperson, we're the same person.
You got it. Love it, my friend. Cheers, buddy. Thank you very
Cheers,
much.
pal.
All right. All right. Say what sales. James, I told you it was going to be nuclear, going to be fire. The man's on fire. Good stuff. Hey, so next week, I guess we're going to come do it again. We keep building wins. We can't stop. It's like building a pyramid. Remember those that virtual wind pile I talk about once in a while, right? Keep throwing wins on the pile. Big wins, little wins, medium-sized wins, all kinds of wins. They just keep compounding and growing. And we're going to do that again next week. Back to the industry with a good friend of mine, Ryan King. Ryan is National Sales Manager of CDAN, which is a equipment manufacturer that supplies a lot of equipment into our metal roofing industry. And we see each other several times a year at different trade shows. You're going to love this guy. We're going to talk a little more nuts and bolts stuff in the industry next week. So don't miss that. Until then, remember to love what you do and do what you love. You only get one go around, so live it, love it, own it. And as I always like to say, make today your best day ever. Until tomorrow. Cheers, my friends.